Welcome to this explainer on shamans and exorcisms, the combat narrative of ancient healing. Okay, let's just jump right in and completely demystify the ancient, highly structured practices of spirit possession. We kind of need to forget the Hollywood tropes for a second, because what we're actually looking at is a 100,000-year-old tradition of knowledge. It's a worldview where the boundary between physical illness and, well, literal cosmic warfare, it just doesn't exist. Today, we're going to break down the highly specialized techniques these master healers use to battle unseen forces. So let's start by looking at the terrifying reality of this ailment, exactly as it manifested in the women of the Venda tribe in southern Africa. Picture the scene, right? A traditional healing dance is going full tilt, and then suddenly a foreign spirit announces its hostile takeover of a patient. But it doesn't happen with a favor or a chill. It happens with this deep, completely unnatural bull-like grunt. Then, speaking through the patient's mouth, often in a totally different dialect, the spirit just starts listing off its demands. It might ask for clothes or even symbols of authority like an ancestral axe or a spear. To the Venda, this isn't seen as a psychological break. No, in their framework, this is a literal vocal hostage situation. Now, in the shamanic worldview, dramatic possessions like the one we just talked about are understood as spiritual intrusions. This happens when foreign entities, or just low-level energies, actually breach a person's defensive energetic boundary. They get in and completely disrupt normal functioning. Essentially, it's a disease caused by an invasion from the outside. You can think of it like a predatory being setting up camp where it absolutely doesn't belong. And there's a really stark contrast here between our modern approach and this ancient one. While modern medicine tends to, isolate physical symptoms and deal with individual mental health in a very sterile clinical setting, shamans view illness as a profound spiritual crisis. It's never just about the individual patient. It's about cosmological and community balance. If you're sick, it implies a taboo was broken, or maybe an enemy clan unleashed a spirit, or the natural elements are just way out of whack. So healing the patient literally requires healing the fabric of the universe itself. To combat these severe intrusions, communities turn to the shaman. And look, a shaman is not merely a priest who prays to the gods for help. Far from it. They are masters of spirits. They intentionally traverse the boundary of physical reality to engage in actual boots-on-the-ground cosmic battle. They don't just politely ask for healing. They cross over into the unseen realms to demand it, to fight for it, and to forcibly take it back. But as you can imagine, you don't just wake up one day and decide to be a cosmic warrior. A shaman only gains the strength to fight demons after surviving their own shamanic death. This is a massive, profound initiatory crisis. It usually involves years of severe, incurable illness. And during this dark period, the future shaman actually experiences visions of their own spiritual dismemberment, literally being torn apart by spirits and fundamentally rebuilt from the ground up. It's an incredibly dangerous threshold. They have to be broken down so their energetic circuitry can be modified. Why? To handle the massive surges of power required to fight supernatural entities without, well, dying. So, armed with this newly modified energetic circuitry, the shaman can execute their main method of action, the shamanic journey, also known as soul flight. This process is almost always triggered by the frenetic rhythm of drums. Fun fact here, the very root of the word shaman, sam, actually refers to the violent, agitated movement of the practitioner beating their drum. This relentless drumming propels the shaman into a deep, ecstatic trance, allowing their soul to physically leave their body. From there, they either descend into the dark underworld or ascend to the upper worlds to track down the exact source of their patient's affliction. Once they're in the spirit realm, the shaman deploys a highly specialized and honestly super varied arsenal of exorcism techniques. For example, they might perform cord cutting to completely sever a toxic energetic entanglement. If a soul happens to be lost, they act as a psychopomp, which is a guide to lead the soul back to where it belongs. Or if they're dealing with a direct entity attachment, they go straight for outright depossession, forcibly separating a disembodied spirit from its human host. But all of this begs a very practical question, right? When a patient is literally writhing on the floor and negotiations with the intruding spirit completely fail, how exactly does a shaman physically remove a demon from a person's body? Well, they don't just wave their hands around. Shamans employ highly visceral, incredibly dramatic physical methods. Sometimes the shaman will fiercely suck the illness right out of the patient's flesh, capturing the foreign energy in their own mouth before spitting it out to be transmuted by the elements. It's intense. Other times, they might use an ancient cold brass mirror to physically trap the spirit. There's even a Turkic tradition where, right as the shaman exorcises the hostile spirit, an assistant will literally tie a knot into a specially prepared thread next to the patient, securely locking the demon inside that knot to permanently drain its strength. Now, sometimes raw combat just isn't enough, and it has to be paired with negotiation. This is essentially paying a sacrificial ransom to the kidnapper. To buy back a soul, physical gifts have to be offered to pacify the spirits. For the Vinda tribe we mentioned earlier, that might be an axe or some clothes. For Mongolian underworld spirits, interestingly, it requires exactly 9 cups of beer for a meal patient. I mean, very specific, right? Or, in the case of hostile lower world entities in Siberia, the shaman might have to offer up an entire sacrificial reindeer to permanently buy back the health of their kin. But here's where it gets really fascinating. Beyond the supernatural spectacle of flying souls and demon traps, these intense seances serve an incredibly brilliant psychological function. They act as a massive community confessional. When the shaman is deep in a trance, the entire community gathers around, and it's in this highly charged, super emotional atmosphere that hidden guilt, anger, and taboo violations are publicly aired out. The ritual literally forces the community to face its own secrets, and that acts as a huge catalyst for psychosomatic healing. In these pivotal moments, the shaman basically transforms into a cosmic prosecuting counselor. With their helping spirits speaking directly through their mouth, the possessed shaman relentlessly cross-examines the sick patient. They'll entreat, cajole, and straight up threaten if they have to. In one recorded Eskimo seance, a shaman grilled a patient for hours until she finally confessed to splitting a forbidden meat bone. The moment she did, the audience instantly responded, shouting, "Let her be forgiven." The shaman literally interrogates the illness right out of the patient, triggering a powerful emotional and physical release that is absolutely vital for recovery. As we wrap up this explainer, I want you to consider how our modern, highly individualized struggles, things like isolation, trauma, and hidden guilt, really closely mirror these ancient spiritual intrusions. Today, we tend to lock our problems inside, trying to cure them in absolute privacy. So ask yourself, what personal demons are you harboring right now that might only truly be cured by bringing them out into the light, confessing them, and confronting them with the support of your community? Thank you so much for exploring this fascinating combat narrative with me, and definitely keep questioning what lies just beyond the boundary of the ordinary.